In today's Mishnah, we'll learn the second and third Mishnah from the third Perek of Masechta Kinim. And in yesterday's Mishnah, we made the transition of dealing with mixtures of Kinim, where the Kohen consulted Beit Din in terms of what to do, to the Kohen just acting of his own accord and offering half above and half below from our mixture. And in yesterday's Mishnah, we dealt with a case of Kinei Stuma, belonging to different individuals, and they were of equal size. In today's Mishnah, we discuss cases of Kinei Stuma that were of different sizes. So the Mishnah begins, Echad lazo, U'shtayim lazo, V'shalosh lazo, V'eser lazo, U'mea lazo. So you have a case of 5 women, one brought 1 ken, one brought 2, the other 3, 10, and the final one 100. Now this could be easily understood, as we'll use later on, where there was simply a case of a woman brought 1 and 2, or 3 and 10. But we'll continue based on the diagrams and the Mefarshim that explained it. This is one big case. We have a mixture altogether of 116 pairs of kinim. Mishnah says, "Asa kulam lamala mechetza kesher mechetza pasul." If they were all performed above as olot, since half have to be offered as chataot and half had to be offered as olot, then half are valid and half are invalid. Similarly, kulam lamata, if they're all offered below as chataot, then mechetza kasher, mechetza basul. Then since only half of them should have been offered as chataot and the other half should have been offered as olot, then half are valid and half are invalid. This next case is where things change a bit. It says chetzian lamala v'chetzian lamata. If the Kohen took these 116 pairs and saw them as many kinei stuma and offered half above and half below, in that situation we say hamurubeh kasher, which means the number of birds equal to the number of kinim brought by the lady who brought the most kinim, that number of birds is considered valid. That's the way the Ravid explains it. So we don't take it literally, saying the lady who brought 100 kinim, all her kinim are considered valid, but rather we say that it's a number of birds equal to the lady who brought the most pair of birds. That number is considered valid. So we'll explain how that is so. This was a much simpler case of Rachel and Leah. Rachel brought 2 kinim and Leah brought 3. So altogether, what happened is the Kohen offered 5 above and half 5 below. He offered 5 as chataot and 5 as olot. So the worst possible scenario is if all of Rachel's birds were offered either above or below. But if you recall, Rachel's birds in total is 4. And since the total birds in the mixture are 10, that means half above and half below means 5 are offered above and 5 are offered below. So even under the worst situation, we can be certain that one of the pairs of Leah's birds was offered 1 above and 1 below. That is because, again, a maximum number of birds that belong to Leah would be 4 of 5, either above or below. So let's take that pair of birds that we've already verified as being Leah's and put it aside, as being one pair that is valid. Now we're left with the remaining mixture of two kinim belonging to Rachel and Leah, equal size. They got mixed together, with half offered above and half offered below. And as we explained in yesterday's Mishnah, in that situation, the best result would be that half are valid and half are invalid. So using our example, 2 of the 4 kinim. So if we take the 2 kinim plus the first kin that that verified that was valid belonging to Leah, in total we have 3 kinim that at best could be considered valid and 2 that we have to be considered are invalid. And those 3 kinim are equal, if you noticed, to the number of birds or number of kinim that Leah initially brought. So if we now apply it to our more complicated case of a mixture of 1, 2, 3, 10 and 100, then the worst situation would be if the smaller kinim of 1, 2, 3 and 10 were offered all above or all below. So let's use the example we have in our diagram where they're all offered below. In that situation, half of those birds would be valid and half of those would be invalid. And if to be clear now, what about the 200 birds belonging to the lady that brought 100 kinim? Now, since in total we had 116 pairs, that means 116 birds were offered above and 116 were offered below. And even in that situation where all the birds, if you look at the diagram, belonging to the ladies that brought 1, 2, 3 and 10 kinim, were offered below, that means 116 birds belonging to the lady that brought 100 kinim were offered above. In that situation, 100 of those would certainly be valid because she has to offer 100 above. However, she can only offer a maximum of 100 above, therefore 16 of those 116 offered above would be considered invalid. Then, her remaining 84 birds would have then been offered below, and they would all be considered valid because she has to offer a maximum of 100 below. Now, if we do the math and add together all the valid birds, in total we get to 200 or 100 pairs, which is equal to the number of birds of the lady that brought the most kinim. So Mishnah ends. Zeh haklal. This is the general rule. Kol makom she'ata yachol lachalok et hakinim, v'lo yemeshel isha echad bein milamala bein lamata. Any situation where you can divide the birds. However, it cannot be divided in such a way that the birds belonging to one woman would be both above and below. In that situation, we say mechetza kasher, mechetza pasul. Half would be invalid, and half would be valid, half would be invalid. Now, the simplest case to demonstrate is what we learned in yesterday's Mishnah, where we had equal number of kinim. 2 belonging to Rachel and 2 belonging to Leah. And then, if you recall, in that situation, we had to be concerned that half valid and half invalid. But this would also be the case if you had, say, a mixture of birds belonging to 3 different women, where, for example, you have 1, 2, and 3 kinim mixed together. In that situation, since it's possible that the kinim belonging to one lady, meaning the lady that brought the 3 kinim, was all offered below, and the kinim belonging to the ladies that brought 1 and 2 were offered above, in that situation, again, based on the same principles we learned in yesterday's Mishnah, half would be valid and half would be invalid. The Mishnah continues, Kol makom she'ein ata yachol lachalok et hakinim ad shu meshel isha achat bein milamala bein milamata. If, however, you can't divide the birds in a fashion unless you'd have birds belonging to one woman both above and below, like the cases we saw in our Mishnayot, in that situation we say hamerubeh, the number of birds belonging to the lady with the most number of kinim would be considered valid. Like in our case, the lady that brought 100 kinim, or in the simpler case we brought previously, the number of birds equal to the number of kinim that Leah brought would be considered valid. So in that case it was 3. By the way, it's interesting to note, Tiferet Yisrael talks about this in more detail, but this would also be the case, for example, if you had a mixture of 3, 4, and 5 kinim together. In that situation, you can't divide the birds such that the number of birds equal to the lady who brought any one pair of kinim is all above or all below. In other words, the way you're going to divide it, there'll always have to be a number of birds that bridge both above and below belonging to one woman. So in that case of 3, 4, and 5, it would be not the murubah, meaning the largest number, meaning the lady of 5, but the number that would bridge. So in that case, it would be a total. In our case, it would be 3 plus 4. So it would actually be the number of birds equal to 3 plus 4 together. So 7 pairs would be valid. I'll leave that for your further study. It's elaborated on page 87 on the book if you want to see it in more detail. But I just want to bring that to your attention. That's our learn Mishnah Gimel. Mishnah says chatat lozo va'ola lozo. So if you've got a mixture now of, here we're dealing with not stumot but actual chataot and olot that are mixed together. So we've transitioned from talking about stumot to, if you like, kinim mefuresha. So Mishnah says you've got a mixture of chatat and olot. Normally, what we learned that such birds should have been left to die, but the Kohen goes ahead and offers them. Asa kulam lamala mechetza kasher mechetza pasol. If I offer them all above, then half will be valid and half will be invalid, because again, only the olot from that mixture should have been offered above. Kulam lamata, if they were all offered below, then mechetza kasher, mechetza pasul, that half would be valid and half would be considered invalid because only the chataot should have been offered below. Again, very importantly, we're assuming here the number of chataot and olot are equal. That's the only way to make sense of the fact that half would be valid and half would be invalid. If however chetzian lamala v'chetzian lamata, if half were offered above and half were offered below, then in that situation we have to say shteihen psulot. We have to be concerned that no birds are valid. Why? Sheni omer, because I have to assume the worst, that the chatat kreva lamala, all the sin offerings were offered above incorrectly, the olah and all the olah offerings were offered below. Here, just to add to the point, again, it's very important to stress that we're dealing with if it was an equal number of birds. If, however, the number of olah and chatat offerings were not equal, for example, Israel gives an example, where there are 4 chataot and 2 olot, and half are offered above and half are offered below, then you can be even under the worst situation where the 2 olot were offered below, and 3 of the 4 chatat were offered above. That means that the 1 chatat was offered below, and that chatat would be considered valid. That's a little bit extra for you to appreciate the nuance in this Mishnah. Those are Mishnah today.